Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us. We wanted to hop on and talk with you guys about a little project we've been working on. Super exciting. It is called Sorry Not Sorry, which is such a fun thing. Transforming guilt into gratitude, which was born through us working through our own guiltiness around certain things and feeling like we could help others do the same. And of course, like we're around the holidays and there's always guilt around, spending money or family time or boundaries or whatever the case may be. And so here we are, your little gratitude fairies bopping you on the head and asking you to come and join us. You know what's so interesting is that I feel like animals don't experience guilt. Like, I'm trying to think back if I've ever talked to an animal and they've been like, oh, I feel so guilty for eating that bread off the table or whatever. They feel worry for getting in trouble. They feel like anticipation or anxiety. But I've never had an animal that's like, oh my gosh, I'm so like remorseful or guilty for like jumping on the table and eating that. They're usually just like, I saw it, I took the opportunity, and I went with it. So it's kind of interesting to me that guilt is very much a human thing.
Yeah. And I feel like it started to become very apparent to me this year with how many people say I'm sorry about everything. Like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Or during live events, people will cry or express emotion. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm crying. And I started to tell people, like, don't apologize. That's why we're here. So interesting that we've been so conditioned to be like shameful about it or embarrassed and feel bad that you're doing it in the presence of someone, where that like raw vulnerability is where like deep connection growing from, and we're like shying away from it. And I was even telling Shayleigh, I was at the grocery store the other day and I was like, I started really paying attention to how many people say sorry, or even myself. And there was a couple times where I was standing there looking at stuff on the shelf, and then I had there was one time where I had pushed the cart off and a lady was standing next to me and she almost ran into me, like it was like she was gonna muck me out with her cart, and I apologized. And it was like, but I found myself so many times having that reaction and that response, and I was like, that is so fascinating, because if you really start to pay attention, ever since we started talking about doing this, it was like my awareness around it became like exaggerated, and I was like, holy cannoli. Can't believe I just said holy cannoli. I don't think I've ever said that out loud. And the one thing that I had was having people do during the live events was say thank you for allowing me to share what I wanted to share, or thank you for holding space for me to allow me to cry or allow my emotions to come through. And so having it being around Thanksgiving, and there's always all these like gratitude things that come up, I'm like, well, why don't we deal with the guilt and the shame that we have, and having these exercises of awareness and the support to move through. It's almost like when you apologize in those moments where, like in the grocery store, someone almost ran into me, but I apologized. It's like you're almost apologizing for taking up space, like you're not worthy of. And it bleeds into boundaries. Like you feel guilty about, setting boundaries. And like Shayleigh said, holidays are coming, and we all know that that's what activates so much of this stuff for people.
I just remember that I used to like clean my house top to bottom and then like still have people over and be like, excuse the mess. It's so messy in here. Like, oh, sorry. Or like I have a friend that's constantly like, oh, I'm not wearing makeup. I look terrible. Sorry. And like she'll apologize for like not having makeup on or not having like nice clothes or whatever. And it is just so funny what we apologize for. And it makes me think of like dogs and specifically like pit bulls, boxers, bulldogs, Frenchies, like the little like bully breeds. They will like have conversations with me and they'll be like, yes, I bark at other dogs when I'm on the leash. I'm very leash aggressive. I'm not sorry. I don't want to heel next to my person, and I'm not sorry for it. And they're like funny. They have this sense of humor, but it always stands out in my mind how some dogs will be like, "Oh yeah, I'm not sorry. Like I know I'm barking at the neighbor dog all the time." And what I find too is this kind of reminds me of a little dog that I recently talked to where the person was like, I don't understand. Like, he's such a good dog. And then when it comes to walking him on the leash, like, he's so bad. And he was so specific. He was like, you will notice that I don't bark at people who make eye contact with you. If you're making eye contact, but I'm being seen because you don't want to be. And like, if you start like standing up straight and taking up space and like being seen, then I won't feel like I need to overcompensate for that. And it totally is so interesting how apologizing for just being where you are, being how you are, like no makeup, whatever you're wearing, like, I don't know. It, yeah, we apologize for everything.
I feel like the last couple guests we had on the podcast both sort of had apologized for going off topic in the moment, like they were inspired to go in a different direction. And oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. So it's just like you said, it's like apologizing, feeling bad for just being where you're at, who you are. And it's so heavily embedded in the horse industry right now, especially with social media, where people are starting to realize, oh, there are a lot of these methodologies that I have used as far as horse training or management or whatever it was, how it's possibly mentally and then subsequently physically harmful for my horse. I say that speaking from my own experience, just being a trainer for so many years and starting to shift the way I do things. And then there was a good chunk of time where guilt overtook me, where I felt bad that my horses had been through that with me, but like constantly reminding myself that they chose to be here to be with me while I learned this stuff. So I didn't need to feel bad. And it didn't actually honor their presence in my life or their choice to be here for me feeling bad. Like it kind of took away from the fact that they're like, no, I came for this and you're just out there feeling guilty. Like, let's move on and get on with what we're supposed to be doing here together. And the ability for people to recognize that, use self-compassion and go, you know what, I didn't know, but I know now. And standing really firm in the way that you feel and advocating for your horse and not feeling bad. And I feel like that's where the sorry, not sorry comes in, where it's like you unapologetically get to advocate for your horse, for your home, for your space or whatever it looks like at any point in time, and not feel bad and feel like you're worthy enough to say, oh, this is the boundary around this. This is what feels good to me. This is what doesn't. And just honoring that instead of shrinking yourself down and trying to get out of the way and, make yourself small for everyone.
Yeah, because we all know that, like, well, I'm thinking of dogs for some reason because I'm like, man, dogs are like the perfect example of like not being guilty, being who they are. Like, they might develop anxiety or something like that, but for the most part, like, I just feel like dogs are such little guides of like, yeah, I freaking barked at the squirrel. Like, yes, I did that, and I'm not sorry. Like, what? And that is like, um, I guess what I'm feeling like is going to come from this is goes back to our mantra this year of helping people call their power back, because a lot of times guilt, it's like externally driven, like it's guilt about our horses, it's guilt about how we treated somebody, it's guilt about what we did. It usually involves like another living breathing being for the most part, spending money on someone, whatever. And then there's like guilt around our like self-image, and usually the thoughts and guilt that are around our self-image are because we are thinking about the way like others will perceive us. So ultimately, like, we're wanting to help people call their power back, and and also to be present and to be aware when you're not being present. And that is like one of the biggest things, because typically when we feel guilty, it's like a thing of the past. Like, for the most part, if someone's feeling guilt, like, you wouldn't be actively doing something and immediately be like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so guilty, but I'm going to continue doing this because this is just great and I'm sitting in it." Usually it's like we do it, and maybe right after we do it, we're immediately like, "Oh fuck, I shouldn't have done that." But it's a thing of the past, and being aware of when you're being, true to the moment and present in the moment, and when you're not, and then identifying, well, okay, it happened. Like, it's currently out of my control, but this current moment is in my control. What can I do moving forward? That is what I think, we're kind of wanting to help people with too.
Yeah, and allowing people the permission to not reject themselves for feeling guilty. Guilty in itself is not something that is bad. It means you have a moral compass. But when you stay in it too long, or you don't shift the thing that created it to begin with, it becomes something that will manifest in your body, like bacterial infections. Um, and so it's something that needs to be addressed and shifted, and not sort of left to exist within your space unknowingly, because you don't want that stuff to get so big that you have to get the big fat lesson, because nobody wants that. So I think that was like our main intention for this, was let's mix in the gratitude. Let's help people become aware and then shift that stuff. Like, same thing, going back to how are we shifting guilt into like showing up late to lunch, instead of saying sorry, you're saying thank you so much for being patient with me, or things like that, little things like that you can shift, where you can just acknowledge the person for holding the space for you and being grateful for them, versus feeling like, oh gosh, I'm so unworthy of your time. And I, again, shrinking down and giving all your power away to circumstances on the outside of you. So what I will say is that this little offering that we have is 5 days, and they are pre-recorded videos. You get a video a day. There is content in there for you to read, and then there are activities and journal prompts. Each day will have a meditation that will go with the theme of the day to help you go deeper into that subconscious part of you, where we're actually operating from, and kind of shut off that our more conscious place where we're analyzing everything and thinking so hard about it. We can go a little bit deeper. I will be doing those, and Shayleigh will be channeling daily messages from the collective of the group of, I want to say horses, but it feels like all the animals might be involved with this one too, that they want for us to know. So those will also be in there. And then we have an additional Facebook group for support, and we will be helping you guys in there, where you will have access to us for those 5 days. And then we have a live call at the end on the 18th. So the actual start date is Monday. Monday, Monday, the 13th. Monday the 13th is day one. So we will leave this open for you to jump on board until Friday at midnight. And then we will immediately get onboarded into the Facebook group, and you will be opened up into the welcome section. You'll get a login, and we can start mingling in the Facebook group. And then we'll get going on Monday. Have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. If you're in our membership, there will be a discounted rate for you. And I guess my only other thing is, I think it's so cool to be doing the daily messages right now, where like the horses are all talking about being part of like this great awakening. I just feel like the daily messages are going to be kind of wild, because there's this massive shift in the horse industry. there's a lot of transitions right now to non-physical. The energy is wild, and I just feel like the messages are going to be so powerful. So I just like can't wait to see what's going to happen in there. So come join us.
I know. I feel like that's always people's favorite part. So, if you guys want to join us, you can go ahead and click on the link below. If you want the discount and you also want to join the membership, as of right now, it's $27 a month. You get a lot of stuff in there through the end of the year. You'll be grandfathered in at that price as a founding member. I don't know how many people we have in there, about 45 members right now. I think something like that. We have a book club. We do special live Q&As with our authors, and we do guest podcasts that you get to join in the chat and ask questions in real time. And then we do a monthly tea party. We do lots of fun things in there. So if you're not knowing if you want to like fully jump in with us right now, you can jump in a little bit. You can dip your toe in into the membership, and you get a fatty discount for being in there and joining us. So all the reasons that you should join us. So yeah, because that's it. So we hope to see you guys in there. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and we will answer them for you. All right. Hope to see you guys in there.